Buffy the Vampire Slayer. His professional debut was in 1998 on this iconic show. He played Gage Petronzi, an arrogant, popular swimmer. In a classic Buffy storyline, his character turned into an amphibious sea monster. The role was short and ended inside a rubber suit, but getting a credit on such a huge show was a crucial first step on his career ladder. Time of Your Life and Popular. Miller continued his journey as a guest star. In 1999, he appeared on Time of Your Life, a spin-off of the popular show Party of Five. A year later, he got a 2-episode role on Popular, a high school comedy series from creator Ryan Murphy. These roles were still small, but they gave him more screen time and valuable camera experience. ER. In the same year, he appeared on one of the most prestigious drama shows at the time, ER. He played Mike Palmieri, a high school football player who gets injured during a game. Appearing on an Emmy-winning series like ER was a significant achievement. It showed that he could act in a more serious and dramatic setting, which was a signal to casting directors. Underworld. After his big role in The Human Stain, Miller took a very small part in the fantasy action movie Underworld. He played Dr. Adam Lockwood, a colleague of the main character, but his scene was very short. His role had no lines of dialogue. This is a classic example of an actor taking a job on a big project to stay relevant and make connections, even if the part is almost invisible. Joan of Arcadia and Stealth. The year 2005 was busy. He guest starred on the spiritual drama series Joan of Arcadia, playing a young millionaire who believed he was talking to God. In the same year, he lent his voice to the action movie Stealth. He was the voice of the advanced fighter jet computer named EDI. This voice role was uncredited, showing his flexibility as a performer. Ghost Whisperer. Right before Prison Break aired and changed everything, Miller appeared in the pilot episode of the series Ghost Whisperer, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt. He played Sergeant Paul Adams, the ghost of a soldier missing in Vietnam. This role showed him as a sympathetic and tragic figure. Ironically, this was his last ghost role before he became one of the most recognizable faces on television. In Dinotopia. After years of playing small parts, the year 2002 was when Wentworth Miller got his first big chance. He was chosen as a main actor in Dinotopia, an ambitious fantasy miniseries produced by Hallmark Entertainment for ABC. This was not a guest role, this was his main stage. The project was a huge television event. It was a giant production with a record-breaking budget at the time, around $85 million, making it one of a kind. Miller played David Scott, one of two half-brothers whose plane crashes on a mysterious island where humans and dinosaurs live together. His character David was cynical, practical, and rebellious. He was the opposite of his younger brother, Carl, who was more idealistic and easily amazed. As David, Miller had to show the internal conflict of a modern man trapped in a perfect world that he did not trust. This role gave him the chance to show a wider range of emotions, from fear and disbelief to finally acceptance. This was a huge jump from his previous roles. For the first time, Miller had the responsibility of a lead actor who had to carry the story of a giant, big-budget production. The success or failure of the miniseries was partly on his shoulders. The biggest technical challenge in Dinotopia was acting with characters that were not actually on set. Miller spent most of his time interacting with green screens and tennis balls that represented the CGI dinosaurs. This greatly improved his imagination and technical skills, which are very important skills in modern cinema full of visual effects. Dinotopia was a big rating success for ABC, and it won an Emmy Award for its visual effects. While it did not become a long-lasting cultural phenomenon like his future projects, this role successfully put Wentworth Miller's face on the Hollywood map. He proved that he was not just a charismatic supporting actor, but also a reliable leading man. Dinotopia was his public audition for bigger roles, proving that he was ready for the real stage. And The Human Stain was— If Dinotopia was Wentworth Miller's public audition as a leading man, then The Human Stain was his graduation into Hollywood's major leagues. In 2003, Miller got one of the most significant roles of his career, acting alongside two Oscar-winning giants, Sir Anthony Hopkins and Nicole Kidman. Directed by Robert Benton, the movie was based on a famous novel by Philip Roth. This was no longer a fantasy world, this was a stage for complex and painful human drama. Miller played young Coleman Silk, the younger version of the main character played by Anthony Hopkins. Coleman Silk is a respected professor whose life is destroyed after he is accused of being a racist. But the movie reveals his biggest secret. Silk is a light-skinned African-American man who has hidden his racial identity his entire life, even from his wife and children. Miller's role was to show the difficult early years when Silk made the decision that would define the rest of his life. This was a quantum leap. Moving from a TV miniseries to a prestigious drama film with A-list actors is a massive career upgrade. This role gave him artistic credibility that money cannot buy. Miller faced two big challenges. First, he had to portray a very deep internal conflict about identity, race, and sacrifice. Second, he had to convince the audience that he was a younger version of Anthony Hopkins. This forced him to do intense character study, learning how Hopkins talks and moves to create a seamless performance. This role had a very strong personal connection for Miller. His father is African American, and his mother is Caucasian. In many interviews, Miller said that his own experience as a multiracial person gave him a deep understanding of the struggle and isolation his character felt. This personal connection is what made his performance feel so authentic and powerful. This role fundamentally changed how Hollywood saw him. He was no longer just a handsome face. He was a dramatic actor with depth and substance. Prison Break. There are good roles, there are great roles, and then there are roles that become a phenomenon. In 2005, Wentworth Miller got a role in that last category. After years as a working actor, he auditioned for a high-risk new series from Fox called Prison Break. Finding Michael Scofield was very stressful for the producers. They needed an actor who could show the intelligence of a genius, the sadness of a desperate brother, and the toughness of a criminal all at once, often without speaking. Hundreds of actors tried out, but no one was right. Wentworth Miller walked into the audition room just 1 week before filming began. Producer Paul Scheuring said that when Miller came in and gave him that signature cold stare, he knew right away, that's him, that's Michael Scofield. Miller got the part on the spot. Michael Scofield was not an ordinary character. He was a brilliant structural engineer who purposely robbed a bank to get put into the same prison as his brother Lincoln Burrows, who was on death row for a crime he did not commit. His mission to break out of the Supermax prison from the inside. What makes Michael so interesting is his contradiction. On one hand, he is a hero driven by love and loyalty. On the other hand, he is a master manipulator, able to lie, threaten, and use the people around him like chess pieces to reach his goal. He was a smart and complex anti-hero. The most iconic element of Prison Break is without a doubt Michael's tattoo. The tattoo that covered his entire upper body was not just for decoration, it was the blueprint of Fox River Penitentiary, hidden in Gothic art of angels and demons. The tattoo was designed by artist Tom Berg and took about 4 to 5 hours to apply to Miller's body each day of filming. The temporary tattoo was made of about 24 large decals that had to be placed perfectly. The tattoo was more than a visual prop, it was a character itself. Every piece of the tattoo was a clue, a step in the escape plan. It was a brilliant and original storytelling device, and it became one of the most recognizable images in television history. The power of Wentworth Miller's performance as Michael was in what he didn't do. He didn't shout or cry excessively. He played a genius whose brain was always working 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Miller showed this through his sharp and controlled eyes, the tense silence, and his minimalist gestures. He mastered the art of reactive acting, showing the gears turning inside his head just by the way he observed his surroundings. His controlled performance made the rare moments when his emotions exploded much more powerful and impactful. Prison Break became a massive global hit. Its first season was praised by critics and received a Golden Globe nomination for Best TV Drama Series, and Miller himself was nominated for Best Actor. The show was extremely popular around the world. Some real-life prisons even banned it, fearing copycat escape attempts. This role turned Miller from a working actor into an international superstar overnight. Industry connection. The bonds formed on set, especially with Dominic Purcell, Lincoln Burrows, proved to be very strong and long-lasting, which would later lead them to other projects together. The legacy of Michael Scofield was so strong that the series was revived in 2017 for a 5th season, proving the timeless appeal of the character and story Miller created. The first season of Prison Break is considered one of the best debut seasons in TV history. The plot was tight, tense, and focused on one goal: get out of Fox River. However, as the series went on, the focus shifted from a prison escape to a global political conspiracy involving the company. This shift divided audiences and critics. Some praised its ambition, while others felt the show lost its brilliant original focus. This is a classic example of the challenge high-concept shows face. How do you keep the momentum going after the main concept is over? Even though Michael Scofield was a thinker, the role was very physically demanding. Wentworth Miller did many of his own stunts, from fights in the prison yard to crawling through claustrophobic narrow tunnels. In an interview, Miller stated that filming in the real Joliet prison, a decommissioned prison, was very challenging due to extreme temperatures and the real cell conditions, which helped him get into character. These physical demands added a layer of authentic exhaustion and desperation to his performance, showing that even a genius plan has to be paid for with sweat and blood. Global fame came at a price. Miller later revealed that he struggled with depression during the peak of Prison Break's popularity, partly due to the pressure of hiding his identity as a gay man in a different Hollywood era. His rocketing popularity was also reflected in his salary. It is estimated that in the early seasons, he earned around $40,000 per episode, but in the later seasons and the revival, that number jumped to an estimated $175,000 per episode. This is clear proof of his status as the main asset of the franchise. This journey shows the sharp contrast between his incredible professional success and his deep personal struggles behind the scenes. Law & Order Special Victims Unit. After 4 years behind fictional prison bars, Wentworth Miller's first step toward artistic freedom was to cross over to the other side of the law. In 2009, just a few months after Prison Break ended, he took a guest starring role on one of the most respected procedural dramas on television, Law & Order Special Victims Unit. This was a very smart and strategic choice for an actor trying to escape the shadow of his giant role. Miller played Detective Nate Kendall in the episode Unstable. His character is a police officer who seems heroic. He helps the SVU team on a case, but over time it is revealed that he has questionable methods and his own dark secrets. Unlike Michael Scofield, whose illegal actions were for a pure reason, Nate Kendall is a character in a moral gray area. He is a law enforcement officer, but his behavior often crosses the line. This was the perfect palate-cleansing move. By playing a cop on a very realistic series, Miller effectively distanced himself from his image as a genius inmate. It was a declaration to the industry: I am not just Michael Scofield, I am a versatile dramatic actor. This role required him to show a different kind of intensity. Michael Scofield's intensity was internal and controlled. Nate Kendall's intensity was more unstable and potentially explosive, born from past trauma. It was a chance for him to explore a darker, more unpredictable side of a character. His performance on SVU was very well received by critics and fans, who praised his ability to seamlessly integrate into an established world. Working in the Law & Order universe means working inside the efficient production machine of legendary producer Dick Wolf, which is a very valuable connection. In fact, his performance was so memorable that he was invited back a decade later in 2019 and 2021 to play a completely different character, proving the respect he earned from the show's producers. Resident Evil Afterlife. In 2010, Wentworth Miller took the most ambitious step in his career up to that point. He joined one of the most financially successful action horror movie franchises in the world, Resident Evil. He entered the fourth movie, Afterlife, not as a new character, but as a very well-known and beloved character from the video games, Chris Redfield. This was a big gamble. He not only had to adapt to the world of blockbuster movies, but he also had to satisfy the expectations of millions of game fans who already had a strong idea of who Chris Redfield was. Chris Redfield is one of the main protagonists in the Resident Evil video game series, a tough and heroic Special Forces member. Playing this character came with enormous pressure. Unique fact: aware that the character of Chris in the games had a very muscular physique, Miller went through an intense training program to gain significant muscle mass so he would look more convincing in the role. His physical transformation was proof of his seriousness in respecting the source material. This was Miller's movie star test. Could his massive TV popularity translate into box office appeal? Joining an established franchise like Resident Evil was a smart way to do it. It gave him a global platform without having to carry the entire movie by himself. This role pushed him into a very different world of acting. He had to focus on fight choreography, weapons handling, and large-scale action scenes that relied heavily on visual effects and stunt work. It was a shift from quiet, psychological acting to explosive, physical acting. Resident Evil Afterlife was a huge commercial success, earning over $300 million worldwide. Miller's performance as Chris Redfield was generally well received by fans. While the role didn't launch him to the A-list action star status of someone like Dwayne Johnson, it was an important achievement. He proved that he was capable and comfortable in the middle of a massive Hollywood blockbuster production, adding the title of action movie star to his already impressive resume. House. A year after Resident Evil, Miller took a guest starring role on the highly acclaimed medical drama series House. Appearing on this show was a badge of honor for many actors because it was known for its sharp scripts and Hugh Laurie's legendary performance as Dr. Gregory House. Miller played Benjamin Bird in the episode Charity Case. He was a very generous man, an extreme altruist who donated $1 million to charity after a near-death experience. Dr. House, with his typical cynicism, refused to believe such goodness existed and was convinced that Bird's extreme generosity was a symptom of a rare neurological disease. This was a smart move to maintain his credibility as a dramatic actor. After a very physical action role, this part reminded the industry and the audience of his ability to handle complex material and strong dialogue. His biggest challenge was to act directly opposite Hugh Laurie, who was known for dominating every scene. Miller successfully brought a sympathetic calmness to his character, creating an interesting contrast to Dr. House's caustic energy. This one-episode role, while small, was very effective at keeping Miller relevant in the world of premium television. It showed that even after global fame, he still valued the chance to work with good scripts and great actors, a move that strengthened his reputation while he prepared for his next, very different big step. Stoker. What does an actor do when he wants to escape the shadow of his iconic role? Some try different roles. Wentworth Miller chose a more radical path. He disappeared from in front of the camera and reappeared behind it as a writer. In 2013, a dark and stylish psychological thriller movie called Stoker was released. It starred Nicole Kidman and Mia Wasikowska, but the writer's name was Ted Falke, a name nobody in Hollywood knew. Ted Falke was actually the pseudonym for Wentworth Miller. He purposely used another name so his script would be judged objectively on its quality, without any bias from his fame as Michael Scofield. And his strategy worked. In 2010, the Stoker script landed on the Hollywood Blacklist, an annual list of the best unproduced screenplays. This is a huge honor that proved his exceptional writing talent. This was a total reinvention. This move changed Miller from an interpreter, an actor, to a creator, a writer. It gave him a completely new level of creative control and artistic respect. His brilliant script attracted the legendary South Korean director Park Chan-wook, known for the movie Oldboy. Collaborating with a director of this caliber placed Miller in a much more artistic and prestigious international cinema circle, proving his range went beyond commercial TV. Stoker received critical acclaim, especially for Park Chan-wook's stunning direction and Miller's smart, atmospheric script. While it was not a blockbuster, the film was a success on the independent film circuit. For Miller, this project was a huge victory. He had proven to Hollywood and to himself that he was a true artist with a unique voice, not just a famous face. This move gave him the freedom to choose his own path in the years that followed. The Loft. After his creative break to write Stoker, Wentworth Miller returned to the big screen in 2014 with the movie The Loft. This film was a remake of a successful 2008 Belgian movie in the erotic thriller genre. Miller joined a solid cast of male actors, including Karl Urban and James Marsden, in a story about affairs, lies, and murder. This marked Miller's return to commercial movies with a role that was very different from his heroic image. Miller played Luke Secord, one of 5 married men who secretly share a luxury penthouse apartment to have their affairs. Luke is shown as the most timid and anxious character of the 5 friends. When a dead woman is found in the apartment, his world of secrets begins to fall apart, and he gets trapped in paranoia and suspicion with his own friends. This role required Miller to portray a weak and guilty character. This was a strategic move to return to acting in an ensemble film. He did not have to carry the movie's weight alone, allowing him to ease back into acting with a mature and complex role. It showed his desire to play morally flawed adult characters, a step away from a perfect hero like Michael Scofield. The main challenge here was ensemble acting. He had to build believable dynamics with the 4 other main actors, creating both the chemistry of friendship and the tension of paranoia. The movie The Loft had a troubled release history. Although it was widely released in 2014, even 2015 in the US, the movie was actually finished filming in mid-2011. This multi-year delay was caused by problems with the film's distributors. This is important to note in his career journey because it explains the gap between his roles. Commercially and critically, the film was not very successful. However, for Miller, it was an important project that marked his return to on-camera acting before he found his next iconic role. The Flash and DC's Legends of Tomorrow. In 2014, the DC television universe known as the Arrowverse was at the peak of its popularity. That's when Wentworth Miller made a huge surprise by appearing on the series The Flash as one of the hero's greatest enemies, Leonard Snart, also known as Captain Cold. This was not just a typical villain of the week role, it was a statement, a total reinvention that showed a side of Miller the audience had never seen before. After years of being known as a serious and suffering hero, the world was about to know him as a villain who was incredibly charismatic and fun to watch. Leonard Snart was the opposite of Michael Scofield in many ways. If Michael was an engineer who became a criminal for love, Snart was a professional criminal who operated by his own set of rules. He was a cold master tactician, a master thief who was not interested in ruling the world, he just wanted the biggest score. What made Snart so interesting was his code of ethics. He had rules: no unnecessary killing, keep your promises, and always finish the job. He was a villain with principles, which made him a much more complex character than a typical antagonist. Miller's performance as Captain Cold was a masterclass in charisma. He adopted a very unique way of speaking, slow, deliberate, with an almost musical rhythm, often ending his sentences on a low, cold note. Every word felt carefully chosen for maximum effect. His performance was very theatrical and self-aware, as if Snart knew he was in a comic book story and he was enjoying every second of it. This style completely stole the show in every scene and made his character an instant fan favorite. The genius of The Flash's producers did not stop there. They made a fan's dream come true by casting Miller's Prison Break co-star Dominic Purcell to play Mick Rory/Heatwave, Snart's criminal partner. This on-screen reunion of the Scofield brothers as a villain duo became a sensation. The natural chemistry between Miller and Purcell, who are good friends in real life, was instantly noticeable. Their dynamic, Snart as the cold brains and Heatwave as the hot muscle, became one of the main attractions of the series. Captain Cold's popularity skyrocketed so quickly that he outgrew his role as a simple villain. His character evolved from an antagonist into a complex anti-hero. This success was so great that he was promoted to be one of the main characters on the spin-off series DC's Legends of Tomorrow. There, he joined a team of heroes and villains traveling through time, heroically sacrificing himself at the end of the first season. This was an incredible character evolution, driven entirely by the power of Miller's performance. The role of Captain Cold was a liberation for Wentworth Miller. It allowed him to let go of the intensity of Michael Scofield and show the world that he had incredible acting range, including comedy and over-the-top charisma. He didn't just escape his typecast, he shattered it with a cold gun. This role introduced him to a new generation of fans in the massive superhero genre and solidified his status as a beloved actor, capable of creating not just one, but two unforgettable, iconic characters in television history. Madam Secretary. In 2019, Wentworth Miller joined the final season of the popular CBS political drama series Madam Secretary. After many years of playing in fantasy and comic book worlds, this move marked his return to grounded, contemporary drama. He did not join as a side character, he joined as the main antagonist who would challenge the main character Elizabeth McCord, played by T.A. Leone. Miller played Senator Mark Hansen, a very powerful, charismatic, and ambitious conservative politician who would stop at nothing to block President McCord's agenda. Unlike Captain Cold, who was a theatrical villain, Senator Hansen was a much more realistic and dangerous kind of villain. He was a cunning political manipulator, hiding his ruthless agenda behind a statesman's smile and patriotic speeches. This role further solidified his status as a mature and versatile character actor. After being a tragic hero and a flamboyant villain, he now proved his ability to be a cold, calculating antagonist in a prestigious drama. This showed the industry that he could handle dense dialogue and psychologically complex characters. Miller had to show menace not through physical strength or weapons, but through words, stares, and controlled body language. He successfully created a character that made the audience uncomfortable, a politician who felt chillingly real. His performance as Senator Hansen in 9 episodes of the final season of Madam Secretary was praised for providing a worthy challenge to the main character. This role served as a strong end to the 2010s decade for Miller. It showcased his evolution from an idolized TV star into a respected character actor, able to adapt and deliver a strong performance in any genre he chooses.